ways you can look at AI, typical ways. There's thousands and thousands of ways to look at AI, but I think three of the most critical are to look at it from the standpoint of the technology, the broad types of AI, and the application categories. So on the far left here, you see a very simple hierarchy of how to think of AI. AI is a term that's used a lot, and oftentimes today we see it used just to refer to a very specific application of AI called generative AI, things like ChatGPT or other tools that build videos or whatever. But AI has been around for, I think, 75 years now. It encompasses a very broad range of technologies, even things that were common in like the 1970s, where you built expert systems that were basically just taking the knowledge of an individual expert and building it into tools. That was a form of AI. So I think people think of AI as very new and very modern, but it's actually been around for a very long time and encompasses quite a broad range of technologies and methodologies. More recently, you got into a category of AI called machine learning. And this is basically where you train algorithms based on some training data, and then you use that training data to be able to predict values on new data coming in. And that is, in my mind, when most people think of modern AI, they're thinking of some form of machine learning. Now, you might have heard of something called deep learning, also sometimes interchangeably referred to as neural networks. And deep learning is just a form of machine learning algorithm that uses mathematics that kind of resemble the way the human brain works, and it is often used for some of the more advanced AI use cases. Now, I should have probably started with the types of AI, and I want to be very brief on this. Many people, when they think about AI and predictions about machines taking over the world, they're thinking of either artificial general intelligence, which basically means that computers can think and behave like human beings, or even artificial superintelligence, which is computers using their vast computational capability to actually exceed the capacity of human beings. I want to highlight that these are all very theoretical. They don't exist. I think there's a reasonable possibility they may never exist, but I trust a lot smarter people than I am to figure out when that happens. What we have today is what's known as narrow AI, and that really encompasses a broad range of things where the AI algorithms can do one thing particularly well. They can't learn how to do new things. And then finally, we'll get to the application categories. And that's really important because, when we look at AI from the lens of something like compensation or any other business function, the mathematics that are incorporated in the left side, where you have to think about whether somebody can use a random forest or a neural network to get the prediction, is just simply not important. What you want to think about is the application categories. And, there are three broad categories that apply. One has been around for a decade or so in practical use, maybe a bit more. Analytical AI, this is the kind of thing where, Netflix tells you what movie you might want to see. Amazon recommends products. When you get a notification from your bank that they think there's a fraudulent transaction, those are all elements of analytical AI. They basically find out something and based on historical data and predict what might happen based on the types of data that's coming in. I'll kind of go to the far right on this and talk about agentic AI. And agentic AI and analytical AI are very similar. It's just a question of, do you autonomously allow a system to make a decision or take an action? For instance, you'll often see something like fraud detection as an agentic AI application. And the difference is, if the fraud is flagged, then a human being has to then take some action on it. We see this a lot in banking with things like anti-money laundering. They get flagged, and then a human being has to look into it more. Something like fraud detection, when you get a notification on your credit card that says this transaction is fraudulent, so we declined it, that's more agentic AI. So the only difference, when agentic AI sounds like a new fancy term, but all it means is that somebody has given a system, an AI system, the ability to take an action. And then in the middle, of course, you have the darling of the last 4 or 5 years, which is generative AI that creates content. It uses the same methodology, by the way. It still uses a lot of training data to predict what, in the case of large language models, predict what the next word is most likely to be based on the prompt. But it actually, instead of predicting an outcome, it actually generates content. And you see this, obviously, the most famous now is ChatGPT, which is a large language model for text. There are other forms of generative AI that you can use for images, audio, video, software code. So these are the application categories.